آله وصحبه والتابعين. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon his family, and upon his companions, and upon all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send his peace and greetings upon our beloved Prophet alayhi wasallam, and upon all people, inshallah. And may Allah protect us and protect our families. Subhanallah, now when we begin our programs and our talks, and we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salam, you all know salam means peace. Subhanallah, Allah, it has a new meaning now. In these days, difficult days that may Allah, inshallah, get us out of these difficult days soon. It brings a different meaning. And the first time I thought about it, it took me to a meaning of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, "Man asbaha minkum aminan fi sirbihi mu'afan fi jasadihi indahu qutu yawmihi fakannama hizat lahu ad-dunya." Aw kama qala alayhi salatu. Whoever amongst you, wakes up or starts his day safe from family, subhanallah, safe from enemies, safe from diseases, safe from anything else, with your family. Mu'afan fi jasadihi, healthy in your body. You're healthy, you're not suffering from anything, and you have what you need for your day of food to take care of yourself and your family. It's almost like you have all the details of life, everything you need from life. That's all the real real things you need from life. And subhanallah, now wallahi, we feel it. Everything else, how useful is the car, how useful is a mansion, how useful is, subhanallah, the most basic things is our safety with our family. We look at our immediate family, we make sure they're okay, they're around us. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing. We are healthy, we're not suffering, we're not struggling. May Allah grant shifa to those who are struggling and suffering. And we have the food. Alhamdulillah, we not only we're afraid what's happening outside, but alhamdulillah, we have our ability to take care of our needs. Wallahi, these are na'am and bounties that we took for granted, and maybe many of us continue to take for granted. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us appreciate these na'am and not take them away from us. This is a quick thought that came to my mind when I say Assalamu alaikum. Really, nowadays when we say salam, that peace of mind, wallahi, is worth gold. Worth gold. To have, not to be worried about health, not to be worried about, like we're saying with the rest of the world. Now, the topic I wanted to chat about was not that, actually. What I wanted to talk about, COVID-19, or the pandemic itself, has forced all of us, big and small, young and old, strong and weak, men and women, everybody is at home now. We only leave when it's necessary, or if we have an essential type of job, or whatever is unusual. But most people are at home, or they're advised to be as much at home. Subhanallah, even Salatul Jama'ah at the masjid, as good as it is, alhamdulillah, we are spared from risking ourselves and others. We are praying Jama'ah at home, for those who can pray Jama'ah. When you look at that, subhanallah, you feel like, I'm feeling paralyzed. Do I do anything? Am I sitting at home not doing anything? And I'm not going to get into the spiritual things you can do and all of that. Alhamdulillah, I'm sure many of our scholars and mashayikh al-kiram, Sheikh Hamdi and Sheikh Uthman and many others, have covered that. But I wanted to make sure that we also don't feel helpless. We are an ummah of nashat, of activism, of energy, of doing. The beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, إذا قامت الساعة وفي يد أحدكم فسيلة فليغرسها وفي يد أحدكم فسيلة فليغرسها. If the day of judgment happens, and any of you is holding a baby plant, then don't die, don't let don't end until you plant it, or at least try to plant it. Make the intention to plant it and do whatever you can to plant it. Even, subhanAllah, if you think at that moment, you're thinking, this is the end of time, and we're not at the end of time. But even if you think, that's it, Qiyamah qamat, this is the Qiyam al-Sa'a, this is the hour, and I have in my hand something to do that is beneficial. In this case, the Prophet ﷺ gave us the example of a plant, but it could be anything that you can still do to the last breath you can take. Don't let the time passes until you do it. And the Prophet ﷺ also said, "Al-mu'minu al-qawiyyu khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if." The strong believer, the believer who's doing goodness, who's doing action, who has the strength to do it, the energy to do things, is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the weak, dependent mu'min. The one who's feeling weak. وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ, as the Prophet said. And there are goodness in both, because why? The common ground is that they both are one. The believer is always good no matter what. So Allah is not saying one is good, one is bad, but He's saying one is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our religion, subhanAllah, is a religion of action, is a religion of we never feel helpless or hopeless. So I'm going to go over a few tips that we can all do. Yani whether you are a sheikh, a alim, a scholar, or a talib ilm, or an activist, a wife at home, a husband at home, a child, all of us can do these things. I mean, I'm going to go quickly over the things that I'm sure have been covered by people who are way more knowledgeable than me and more specialized in the topic than me. Of course, the dhikr and the getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first thing. This is like a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter how it looks like, an ibtila and a difficulty and whatever it is, and it is difficulty, no doubt about it, but in it also there's some opportunity to reflect on ourselves, on our lives, on the world itself. Whether it's a punishment or not, Allah knows best. Whether it's a punishment, sometimes it's a both. Sometimes a little punishment and a little reminder and a little purification and a little reflection. Only Allah knows, His wisdom, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for us, no doubt we can reflect on the affairs of the world, reflect on the affairs of the ummah today. Reflect how for many years we watched over 1 million Syrians being killed, raped, and the world watched silently. Reflect how for decades our brothers and sisters in Palestine have been killed, sanctioned. How for the last few decades our brothers and sisters in Gaza in specific have been put in camps, in isolation, no food, no drinks, no sick people can travel. And this became normal for us, subhanAllah. The world, I'm not saying you and me, maybe some of us cared, and inshallah all of us care. But I'm talking about sometimes punishment comes, not for the khassa, comes for the amma, for everybody else. Look at what has been happening in Kashmir. People watch and became normal to watch it. We became desensitized. We watched what happened in China itself, East Turkestan, where 3 million Muslims, Uyghurs, were placed in concentration camps. The whole world had some coverage for a short time, and then after that they forgot and moved on while they were suffering. And in India now we're watching the fascism that is happening. We watch innocent people being killed in Rab'a in Egypt. We watch people being political prisoners placed in prisons in most of the Arab world, subhanAllah. And the world watched, and including Muslims, we watched, some even supported the oppressors. Some became neutral. Some became feeling like it's not my business. We have to reflect. When we watch the poor suffer and the rich don't pay attention. We watch people at our own borders in America, subhanAllah, migrants coming to seek refuge for their families. And we talk about building wall. And when I say we, I'm talking about America in general, not necessarily you and me. But we'll talk about building a wall to separate us from those poor, dirty, sick. And I'm using these terms in specific, of course, I don't agree with them. Because subhanAllah, the walls did not help us, did not protect us from any sickness. We became sicker than them, subhanAllah. America is the #1 in the world today with sickness. May Allah cure everybody and protect everybody. This is not shamata, we're not mocking things, but we're putting things, how we realize that we have to reflect. There are certain things that are happening in the world today, in the communities, in the Muslim ummah in specific, that are not acceptable, and they have to be challenged. And this is a time for us to reflect. And for that, we seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We use this to make tawbah, to make istighfar, to reflect on what was wrong, not just for the sake of saying, Wallahi, ya subhanallah, that was wrong. But how can we fix it? We still have time. We're not dead. The world is not going to disappear. We're going to suffer a little bit. We're going to be at home for a while. Most of us, inshallah ta'ala, will make it. Most of us still have the ability to make a difference today. And alhamdulillah, this is a time to reflect on that and make a difference. On a more personal level, when we talk about we're being at home, this is subhanallah a taste of being at prison, but you have a lot of freedom. I mean, I personally, I grew up in Lebanon during the civil war in Lebanon. And I remember as a kid, sometimes we would stay in the bomb shelters for sometimes, wallahi, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row. We would eat whatever is available, hummus, food, and in the cans, sometimes dry bread, wet it a little bit, and you make something with the bread. We didn't have internet. We couldn't leave. We couldn't. It's subhanallah stuck sometimes. I can only imagine how our brothers and sisters in Gaza feel. Now we're about to explode for being 3-4 weeks in home. But you know what? Wallahi, nothing is missing for us. We still can get the food we want. We still can get the medicine we need if we're sick. We still can check on each other. We still can talk to each other over FaceTime and WhatsApp and whatever it is. Think about our brothers and sisters in Gaza today, who for the last, people say it lasts 15 years, but actually it's since the original occupation in 67, Gaza has been under siege. First with Israel and now Israel and Egypt. I don't want to get too political, but they're being starved, subhanallah. They don't have the medicine if they get sick. If somebody's sick, you can watch your own kids in front of you suffer and you can't do much. Imagine the people who are in prison today in concentration camps in East Turkestan, and the Uyghur brothers, and in Kashmir, and so on. So alhamdulillah, we have a lot of tools and a lot of na'am to do things. So not only to be thankful that we're around our families and we have the food and drinks and the medicine and the safety, but also, we have the ability to condition ourselves to be normal. Start your day normal. Start early with your prayers, with your dua, prepare a breakfast, as if you're going to work, even if you're not going to work. Dress up. A simple thing. Dress up as if you're going to work. By the way, I'm not too casual. This is CAIR's shirt, so this is work in a way. Don't stick. Some people say it's hard. I'm at home. I'm in my PJ and my pajama and my T-shirt. No. This will give you. This will condition you to become like I don't need to be productive. The key is to become productive. So you dress for success, as they say. Dress up for productivity. Plan your day. Know what you want to do today. Whether it's work related, personally related. I'm going to clean up this room. I'm going to do this project. Whatever it is that you're committed to, plan it ahead of time. Next, it's an opportunity for us to, catch up with our reading. SubhanAllah, simple things. Say these are the books I'm going to read. I love the ideas. I've heard from some people who have set up reading or book clubs. They decide among themselves at a masjid, at a community, youth group, co-workers. They say, we're going to be reading a book a week, a book every 2 weeks, whatever works for you. Pick a topic and you can do more. And then you have discussions. Pick a book, and maybe, mashallah. And I really want to commend my dear brothers and sisters, from Islamic Center of Hawthorne, for always being ahead of everybody else, mashallah. Having this daily show, the daily program where the community continues to feel and sense as a community. It just happened, by the way. I have the Islamic Center of Hawthorne drinking tea with that. So this is how beloved this masjid and community it is for me. But subhanallah, maybe within that group, decide on a couple of books. And once one of your lectures, one of your talks at night will be to discuss this book. Sheikh Hamdi can lead the conversation. Somebody else can lead it if it's a different topic or different specialty, and whatever it is. And imagine how many books we can finish in the next few weeks. Use this time to check on friends and relatives. We have, wallahi, so many. And I feel guilty, and I apologize to all of you. I barely spoke to a couple of you. Wallahi, but in my, بظهر الغيب, Allah bi'alam, how much I made dua for you, and I know you made dua for me and my family and everybody else. But it will be good if we can make time and say, okay, I'm going to go through the list and talk to our shuyukh, our teachers, our co-workers, our friends, our community members, especially those who are single, those who are elderly, those who are by themselves. Check on them, how they're doing. It makes a difference. Check on your family. This is the time to fix relationships. Whoever has been fighting with somebody else, wallah, it's not worth it. We've learned. We were seeing people getting sick, people dying, people suffering over, subhanAllah, and now they're looking back. Anything we had a disagreement with might not be worth it to keep it. Call somebody and say, I forgive you. Can you forgive me? And move on. Alhamdulillah, wallahi. مش مستاهل زي ما بقولوا. It's not worth it. These things are not worth it. At the end of the day, what brings us together is way more than what separates us. The areas I want to quickly focus on, and I will conclude with, this is my area of specialty, but I thought I'd cover the other ones too. Civic responsibility is today as important as it was before COVID-19. Civic engagement, standing up for civil rights, for human rights, for rights of other people is as important today as it was before, and even more now. Because what happens usually in times of crises, when there's a crisis, pandemic, catastrophe, emergency, people are willing to compromise their freedoms. What happens? People in power sometimes abuse their power. Sometimes people are looking for somebody to scapegoat, to blame. Now we're witnessing a rise in Islamophobia in India, where, for example, the fascist BJP, Hindu nationalist groups, are blaming Muslims for spreading the coronavirus, because unfortunately some masajid or some groupings, some conferences continued to meet even though it was, the virus was spreading early on. But Muslims were not the only ones who made that mistake. Some Muslims did that, some Hindus did that, some business groups did that. But they're focusing on these few Muslims who did that, and they're saying, look, because of them, the disease is spreading. And that happened in other places too. We're noticing in Europe a growing Islamophobia. Even in America, sometimes we hear that, we've noticed a growing sentiment against Asian Americans, blaming them for, Asian Americans here in America, blaming them for the coronavirus. So don't think because it's an emergency and it's a pandemic, everybody will come together. The reality is there are some people who unfortunately will continue to spread their hatred. So let's use our time to help those in need. Alhamdulillah, we talked about how many blessings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and bestowed upon us. Safety, health, our family, being at home, may Allah forbid, but if we get sick, we are surrounded by the best medical system in the world, best resources in the world. I was talking to a friend of mine in Egypt, in Syria, relatives. I have relatives in Egypt and Syria and Lebanon. And wallahi, they were, it's heartbreaking what you hear from them. When they say, when the government says stay at home, people are saying you might as well kill us. Because some people, and that is a large number of people around the Muslim world and other poor countries nowadays, if you don't go out and work that day, you don't have dinner for your family at night. Alhamdulillah, most of us are not in that position. And if anyone is, please contact us, contact our masjid. We're one family. We alhamdulillah, all of us can help each other. But in that part of the world, a large number of people, probably the majority of people, if they don't work that day, this is the daily workers. They don't work that day, they can't bring food home. And when the government tells them stay at home, that means they're going to have and starve. Alhamdulillah, we're not there. Inshallah, none of us will be there. So we have opportunity in the luxury of our homes to volunteer, to help from the home or even outside. Some masajid, I think Houssam is doing something similar, are doing food banks, delivering food to homeless people. Our masjid in Corona did that. MashaAllah, 1,200 people were served, given food, a nice bag with package of food and enough for a week or so, rice, oil, etc., etc. So you can volunteer by being there, of course, be safe, or you can organize it from home, organize some campaign from. There's so much we can do to volunteer. There's the census. All of us have received the mailer. I'm looking for my mail here. All of us should have received a mailer from the census for each household to fill it out. Don't hesitate. This is one of the most important things we can do in this time, because it doesn't take effort. It takes 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, but it impacts our budget for the local city, county, state. How? The government, the US government, the federal government gives $850 billion to states every year. And that number is dependent, how much every state gets is dependent on the population, the number of people in every state. So the census, which happens every 10 years, where the government counts how many, تعداد أو الإحصاء, تعداد السكاني basically. They count how many people are in America. So when we don't participate, we look smaller in number. So that means we lose seats in Congress, because Congress is based on proportions of number. We lose money. That means our schools, our highways, our hospitals will receive less money than a state that might have not the same numbers we have. They have less maybe, but we didn't count. So this is an important level you can do to help deal with the economic gap that exists, the poverty, those who are in need. This will impact food stamps and a lot of things that come in our area, and our community, like any other community, also benefits from these, from education, from medical, and so on and so forth. So please do the census. We can talk about it in the Q&A. Election is coming up. Be prepared. Whether we have election or not in person, there will be either voting by mail or electronic. But in the meanwhile, be prepared. Get to know the candidates, and it's not just the presidential. Somebody might say, well, Bernie is not running anymore, or whatever it is your candidate might be. You know, there are a lot of races happening at city council, mayor, and so on. Last but not least, and this is the last part in terms of activism, do not underestimate your ability to make a difference in the lives of people. CAIR and many other organizations launch campaigns, action alerts, advocacy alerts. You know, CAIR, we're doing a weekly action item every week. Last week, we did one calling on us in California to contact our two US senators to pressure the US government to release funds that were supposed to designated to be given to the Palestinian community, to the Palestinians in Palestine. But the Trump administration has frozen this money under pressure from Israel. We're asking Congress, you know, our US Senate, to support a bill that was introduced to release this money, especially to help them fight a COVID-19 outbreak. Very simple. It might take you 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You get the email from CAIR, you click on it, takes you to a page, you say yes, and it sends the emails on your behalf. Wallah, it's the lazy man's activism. Very simple. You send that, but hundreds and hundreds of people contacting our elected officials, they will take action. Imagine if we do that for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, for the refugees, for the immigrants, for people in Kashmir, in Syria, in India. There's no shortage of causes that we can help. I hope, inshallah, that we can take advantage of our stay that, you know, that was imposed on us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which still, in our homes, that's still a 5-star. I mean, first class, 5 stars stay. So alhamdulillah, we're not in pain. We are not, inshallah, most of us are able and capable, inshallah, of resting at home, being safe, do our work, and still be helpful with others. I don't want to take much. That's my 20 minutes is up for me. So I want to finish here and inshallah hear your comments or questions or answers, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair, Houssam, again, for always the kindness first that you always provide the masjid, but also the guidance and the clear directions that helps people in a productive way. So Jazakumullah khair. It's very, very heartfelt, and we always love having you here. We'll open it up now for Q&A, inshallah. Go ahead and raise your hands, and then we'll take it, you know, in turn, inshallah. So Samira Hijaz, I think she might just saying Jazakumullah khair, brother. Okay. Any questions at all, or comments or interjections? Please raise your hand. Use the feature for raising your hand, and I will call up your name.
Sorry, brother Houssam, I cannot raise my hand. I don't know why. It's disabled.
Okay. Go ahead, inshallah, Dr. Muhammad. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Houssam. كيف صحة؟
والله بخير. كيف حالك دكتور
Hearing
محمد؟
your voice.
Same thing والله.
خير. It's always inspiring. I know you are always, you give us hope. But my questions to you, I know they keep saying the word before Corona, it's going to be after, it's going to be different than after Corona crisis. What do you think of the Muslim Ummah? Are they going to, this the time for them to wake up, or are they going to still continue to be asleep? I don't know. What's your opinion?
Wallahi, nobody knows, subhanAllah. That's the truth. The truth is nobody knows. I mean, the world is going to be different, but also superpowers still have a lot of resources, a lot of ability to rebuild. America is a huge country with a huge industry, but it's too soon to tell. You know, if we can contain the outbreak, which seems to be the case in California, alhamdulillah ta'ala, because all of you are doing that. They say California is one of the best examples of how you can contain a virus so far, as opposed to New York. May Allah give them help. Plus, it's helpful for us because we're not as dense in terms of population as it is in New York and New York City and so on. But with that said, the world is different because we learned something, that no matter how much money we have, no matter if you're a superpower, you know, the richest, most powerful country in the world is America, and we're on number one, we're on the top. Italy was before that, you know, Italy, Europe, France, Spain, all of them are struggling. So the difference is that this pride and this arrogance that existed in the world, I think it got humbled. It got everybody humbled when we know that no matter how powerful we are, how advanced we are, a little invisible microscopic virus can cripple the largest country as well as the poorest country. That's the thing. The difficulty is, no matter how it is, we still have, you know, even in America, for example, the sickness disproportionately hits people. Like today, they were saying in Chicago, 70% of the people who died were African American, so who belong to a certain socioeconomic. Basically, they're poorer, they're marginal. The reality is, minorities, poor people, and countries and communities suffer the most. So my worry is that after after we recover, inshallah, we will recover. People have a short memory. People will forget, and they will forget that in some of these poor countries, and I specifically talk about Arab countries and many Muslim majority countries, the fact that there is no healthcare system there, there is no education, there is no economy to at least provide some safety net, is not a result of a natural disaster. Is not the result of someday we woke up and there was corruption. It's the result of a deliberate corruption that exists in the ruling class and those who support it. So what my hope is, people will wake up and realize that we are where we are today, feeling helpless, defenseless in that part of the world, is because of the regimes that exist there. In addition to what we talked about early on, we need to fix our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also with each other. Forget about the bad rulers and the dictators, but problems we hear about them between brothers and sisters within the same family, parents and children, husbands and wives, over trivial things. Let's hope. I can only pray. Nobody can predict. I can only hope that, like we're all reflecting about things, everybody else is reflecting somewhere else and feeling that, subhanallah, life is too short, and it requires for us to redirect our consciousness.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair again, Houssam and Dr. Muhammad. There is an intermittent problem with the service. Apparently, the participant list has been disabled, not on my end, alhamdulillah, but it's an issue. We all know that there's a huge demand on these services these days, and then everyone is trying to really open up bandwidth and offer the service to everyone. Many of them are free, so people are taking advantage of it. So please bear with us and be patient as we communicate all these issues back to WebEx, and then we get them resolved, inshallah. But for tonight, if anyone else still can't raise their hand for some reason or can't see participant list, go ahead and then unmute and then ask your question. But let's mind the order, please, so we don't speak and basically all at the same time, if you don't mind. Jazakumullah khair.
There is a question from somebody. I can read it. I'm sure everybody else can read it too, but it says,
yeah, go ahead.
It says, there is some reports about increased domestic violence in our community. Is CAIR receiving any such reports? Actually, the domestic violence is happening all over, not just in our community, because a lot of people are rediscovering their families now. Now they're at home, their spouses are rediscovering each other, parents and children. I think from what I'm hearing from people, and again, it's anecdotal, there's no study, and just from talking to many of the imams and teachers and activists, alhamdulillah, actually the stories we're hearing are more positive than not, meaning people are realizing that this is the core, this is the bond, this is you're grounded in your family. Everybody else is secondary, you care about each other, etc. So alhamdulillah, there's a lot of growing bonding that is happening, rediscovering of relationship, reigniting of relationships. But also, it also could mean sometimes that, like in every community, I don't think the Muslim community is more or less, it's like everybody else, when there are some weaknesses in the relationship, whether it's between husband, wives, or parents and children, when there's some flaw, under pressure, that flaw becomes bigger. If there's a crack in the system, there's strong wind, strong pressure, the crack grows. So I would say this is a time to kind of look at the crack and try to fix it. If it is something that has to do with personality, forgive. If it's something spiritual, alhamdulillah, consult with our mashayikh, with our experts, with our counselors, because we're going to be here and together for a long time. So we might as well fix any of those cracks before it gets worse. Otherwise, where to escape? There's no place to escape from home. We're going to have to be together. We're going to have to eat together. So I hope, inshallah, we're all looking at these things and using this opportunity to communicate what the issues might be so we can resolve them.
Jazakallah khair. Dr. Jawdat, go ahead. Yeah, you raised your hand. Go ahead and ask your question or your interjection, please. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Houssam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, Doctor. كيف حالك?
Alhamdulillah. My question is why we as Islamic organizations always following others, like especially in elections times, like we have to either be Democrats or Republicans. We all are stuck with these two groups, although we know that one is worse than the other, or one is I mean, they are both the same. So why are like the Islamic organizations not going with the green parties? Somebody, I mean, why they're not? Because over the years, with the slowly but surely, some other party will come up. So why are Muslims not doing that? Why are we stuck to the same whatever others are doing?
Wallahi, this is in itself going to take a longer answer. I'll try to be brief because it's a very good question. The reality is, whether it's you like it or not, I don't like it personally, but the reality is America is a two-party system. Even those small parties, independent and peace and freedom and just all of these, whatever it is that they come up, or the Green Party, they have no chance because the system is rigged in that sense. The system, the two parties that control the system are making sure nobody else can come in. Why? Because there's an agreement. I mean, it's not a conspiracy, but there's almost an agreement. We control the market. Why have a third one? Because, if I don't win, you win. So it's almost 50-50. Sometimes this goes up, this goes down. If you have more parties, then they will lose. What happens is the Democratic Party now is a big umbrella of people all the way from the progressive left to the mid-center. And the Republican Party is all the way from right-wingers to the mid-center. So, the mid-center people sometimes shift based on the candidate. But even within the same party, the Republican Party, you have all the way from the Trumpists to the white militias, right-wing ultra-conservatives, but also you have some middle ground people who are fiscally conservative. They're not necessarily agreeing with them, but they agree with their economic policies. And the same thing on the left or the Democratic Party. So what I want to say is, at this point, this is what exists. Changing it for Muslims who constitute about 1.5% of the total population, and we're still the new kid on the block. We don't have the roots and the depth in politics. We barely just a few years ago had our first members of Congress, Keith Ellison and Andrew Carson, and now later on Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. But that's it. We don't have a long history of changing or starting a party. If we start a party, it will be nobody. That means it's a guarantee that none of our candidates will ever win because both main parties will fight against it. And what will happen? The vote, it's like a vicious cycle or self-fulfilling prophecy. Meaning, if you are a great candidate and you run in your district, you run for Congress under the new party, let's we call it the blue party, right? You're the blue party. Even if people like you, the voter, when they go to election to vote, they're going to say, well, he has no chance to win. So let me choose a Democrat or a Republican. So it's kind of we're stuck with it. We can change that. We can work hard to change that. But in the meanwhile, we have to deal with the reality. The reality is, when November election comes, in your district, there's going to be one person who wins for Congress. There's going to be one president who wins for the whole country. There's going to be one person who becomes the mayor. Who do I do? Who do I vote for? At this point, I have to be practical. I have to be realistic. Usually the rule is you choose the person who brings the most good and the least evil, right? درء المفاسد وجلب المصالح, basically. It's like the fiqh of things. So who's going to be the person who brings the least harm to you, to your community, to America, to the world, and who is the one who will bring the best? Nobody is going to be perfect in either side, 100% good and 100% bad. So you're going to look at each candidate currently, and I'm not endorsing any specific party. Currently, the Democratic Party has been, for the last many years, engaging American Muslims and other minorities. So we do have a say there. We can influence. We have candidates who have been very open to us, who have been very against Islamophobia, very much for justice in Palestine, very much for justice in Kashmir, and so on and so forth. Like Bernie Sanders, who's not running anymore, I can say that, was very clear on those issues, as opposed to other candidates who have said, no, we're going to blindly support Israel. We don't care about Islamophobia. We're going to be anti-immigrant. We're going to ban Muslims, and so on and so forth. So in this case, we're looking for the lesser of the evil and the better of the good. And it doesn't mean we stop working on creating better opportunity in America. Because I agree with you. It's the healthiest thing that we could have in America is to have choices. So we're not always choosing between either black or white, good or bad. There's a lot of range who deserve to be there. Because what happens is, in order to be electable, people start shifting more to the center, and the center is not always good. Our center needs to be adjusted anyway. So your question is really good, but I think it's a longer story. In America, that's what it is we're dealing with, unlike in France or in the UK, where you have a multi-party system. You have all the way from the communists to the left, to the socialists, to the social democrats, to the centrists, to the conservatives, and to the ultra-conservatives. Here, it's only these two. In the meanwhile, let's get what we can, inshallah, for what's best for our community, for the country, for those who are marginalized in America.
Jazakumullah khair for the potent clarification on the issue. I know it takes a lot to explain and understand that, but it is the system, and it's true, and it's choosing the lesser of the evils, unfortunately. We have actually a very good question in chat. That is something that's occupying and on the minds of the board members and all the people, the leadership, and all the masajid currently. And it says, how do we see the services by our masjid changing post-COVID-19 and what we should be thinking moving forward? That really good question. And I think knowing the fact that the dynamic of the world has changed and potentially in many ways irreversible or continues to change moving forward, maybe you can shed some light on that, give some of your thoughts and your input, what might be an opportunity for our masjid and other masajid to do for the community for long-term continuity and sustainability. Jazakumullah khair.
Very good question. Again, I would say, like all of us, CAIR and all non-profits and masajid are part of that. First of all, I hope, and I heard from Samir Abu Adil, that you looked into the government's bill, what's called the payroll protection plan. This is an option, just a side note, to make sure that organizations and not small businesses, not just the masjid. I know in the audience we have people who own small businesses. These are opportunities. Alhamdulillah, our scholars at Amja gave us, alhamdulillah, a relief through a fatwa that's well thought of, that looks into this as a necessity, as a darura, that allows us to look into taking a loan that might have interest. But alhamdulillah, in this case, even that loan can become a grant, meaning you don't pay anything, not the loan, not the interest. So I hope all these small businesses, the small business owners in our community are looking to it. If you have any question, I'll be more than glad. We kind of looked into it. I have some material that I can share with you. If you have a question after this call, inshallah, you can email me or contact me. But back to the question, I would say all of us are looking what will happen. I would say all of us should look into it from a business perspective. Look at a scenario, worst case scenario, middle scenario, and the best scenario. The best scenario is that we all wake up tomorrow and we hear, alhamdulillah, a vaccine was discovered, and it's going to take about a month or two to vaccinate everybody in America. So just continue to be careful, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're done deal. You can start going back to your normal life slowly. Best case scenario, inshallah, it happens. I think the worst case scenario is that this takes till the end of the year. It could be worse, but most people, they're saying if there are some indications that some of the medical tests being conducted are giving some good hopeful news, inshallah, that maybe if something is discovered, they will test it on people and get the FDA approval and get all these necessary approvals, and maybe by the end of the year. That's still a lot. That means our masajid are not going to have regular Jum'ahs, they're not going to have fundraising events. CAIR is not going to have the same banquets and so on. So there are two aspects of it. There's one is, how do we keep these important and crucial institutions able to survive? Because this is what a community is. A community is not you and me. A community is made of the institutions that bring us together. The masjid, the school, the CAIR, the mass, the ICNA, the relief organization that give us a sense of presence and sense of belonging. Otherwise, we're individuals, we're not a community. So that is one aspect that we should not belittle. We should not think about it as, well, alhamdulillah, Allah is Razzaq. Of course, Allah is Razzaq, but Allah wants us to also plan and think. We should plan on that and ensure we keep, because one of the first things that broke my heart that I heard is one of the masajid said they are letting go their imam because they don't have funds. Wallah, I was upset at them, at that masjid, because if they would have contacted anybody, and I know there are more issues than the money, obviously, but we're starting to hear that we're gonna let go. You know, if we have to do things, we have to do things, but we don't start. Our first line of defense could not be our imams and our teachers, and we have to look at options. Sometimes, you know, for certain staffers, maybe we cut the hours, maybe we furlough people, maybe we. I mean, there are certain things. We look at unemployment as an option. We look at some of the tax breaks coming from the government, but we have to think about how can we ensure that this structure called the masjid, this community, remains even during dire times. Focus on monthly donors, people who can commit to giving a certain amount to make sure that to the minimum support is there. Now, the question is more about how can we. It's more about the services, but I wanted to make sure that there are no services if we don't have the institution. In terms of services, I would say if we're looking at the worst case scenario or the medium scenario, it's going to take a while. We're not going to have Jum'ah anytime soon, whether it takes a few months or a few weeks. Most probably it's going to be in the couple of months. What can we do to ensure that we connect with the community? You know, you're doing that. You know, this is one of them, this halaqah, this program. The youth, we should not forget that the youth should have a way. You know, CAIR is launching something, inshallah, in the next few days. We'll announce it to you, that you can have your own too, and others in addition, where we can keep the youth engaged, making sure that we're hearing, you know, somebody asked about domestic violence. We want to make sure that we have a system by which people still communicate their issues. We have, these classes are very important, but we need these private gathering. We need to be able to access the expertise in our community, to have the spiritual expertise and the fuqaha, the shuyukh in our community. We need those who have mental health capacity and experience to share with us, people who can give us counseling. These classes are going to be needed. And don't forget, the masjid could be the hub to make sure that we take care of our economic needs. We have in our community today people who lost their jobs. That's the reality, because they work at a place where they no longer can work. Are we taking care of them? Are we finding out where can we place them, even if it's a part-time place, so they're not struggling? That could only come from the masjid. So we need to shift the masjid where we can do these things, take care of the growing needs now, the new needs, you know, social, as we said, domestic issues, counseling, youth, making sure that we're visiting the elderly. May Allah forbid, but if things get worse, how are we going to deal with burial, funerals? New York has a big problem now, not as exaggerated as that video everybody shared. It's not an accurate video, by the way, but still, it's a problem. If people die, no, most people cannot afford. Here in California, it costs about $10,000. Do we know an alternative? You know, I know in Palmdale, I think it's much less. So we have to look at all these and be prepared, so we're not dealing with a catastrophe and emergency. Economic, as I said, is very extremely important, because that's how we can support each other as a safety net, and not forget those around us. Not around us meaning the larger community, our brothers and sisters from other communities, not the Muslim community. The homeless, people who need shelter, senior homes, provide systems. This is a great opportunity to show the goodness of the Muslim community. And I'm not saying exploit it, fake it. Alhamdulillah, this is our religion, but we usually tend to do it privately because we like to get the reward without others seeing it, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who always sees. But this might be the time to also publicize that, not for show off, not for bragging, not for riyah, but also so our neighbors know. We want our neighbors to know that, you know, we've got their back. As Muslims, this is our religion. We cover for them. We take care of them as we need. And the masjid could be the hub. Alhamdulillah, as I said, I'm familiar with my masjid in Corona. We did that. But I hope, inshallah, and I know Hawthorne is doing something similar, but I hope we publicize this and start showing that we can work with other, you know, there are food banks that will be willing to give you the food, so it doesn't cost you anything, just volunteers to deliver it to those who are in need in your area. And many others, but I know we reached 9:30. I want to give a chance to our one or two last questions.
Jazakumullah khair, Houssam. Again, what you just said resonates very well with the leadership of ICH and many massages in the area. I know that there's new normal now that everyone has to consider, and moving forward, things will be different, and people will have to start digging deep into their brainstorming and explorations to find out how and when these services can be offered, to what extent that will support the people first, the community, the congregation around them, but also the institution that, again, it's a pivotal entity right now for everyone to come and gather around, because it is key aspect of the Islamic Center to be now the beacon, the shining beacon for people to just basically get direction and guidance in economical, religious, and other aspects. So Jazakumullah khair for this great reflection on it, and we'll definitely be in touch to communicate more on how we can pool our resources to the best and collective, inshallah. We have a question from Jawad, followed by a question by Samira Hijaz. Go ahead, Jawad, inshallah.
Jazakallah, Sheikh Houssam, for this inspiring lecture. We should have you more often here. I really appreciate that. My question is, it really boggles my mind that this pandemic started in Wuhan and spread all over the world. Can you give me just shed some light why it didn't spread to Shanghai or Beijing or the surrounding cities around Wuhan in China, but spread all over the world? Any idea?
Well, I know where you're heading in, and only Allah knows. I would say I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories, but I can tell you something as someone who grew up in the Middle East as a child and left. It's so much easier to contain an outbreak under a dictatorship, because the joke goes in the one country that doesn't have any coronavirus is North Korea. Joke, of course. They say, because at 4 p.m. there's one case, 4:01 there's 0. Then 4:15 there's a one case, 4:16 there's none. They shoot them. So of course it's a joke, but the reality is, under a dictatorship, number one, they control the news. They lie. China lied. China for a long time denied there was an outbreak until it started getting leaked by some people who lost loved ones. Number two, it is so much easier to say anyone who leaves home will be arrested or executed. You cannot do it in America. You cannot do it. Here in America, it said stay home. I still drive on the freeway sometimes to go to work, to pick up something from the office. And there are still a lot of people. Sometimes I walk in the area. So in a free country, you cannot control the way you can do it under a dictatorship, especially a repressive dictatorship like China. So in China, in North Korea, in these places, you can contain. Other than that, we'll leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I personally don't believe there's a conspiracy, there's an attempt, because this is the most difficult conspiracy to conduct. A virus does not differentiate. And I know they say they have the cure, but China's economy got hit pretty badly too. And it's not over. There could be a second return for it, meaning they contained it now, but it has not disappeared. And there were some talks that it has picked up again. So may Allah protect everybody. I hope there isn't a conspiracy. I hope there wasn't. To the best of our knowledge, I can't see anything about that now. And I say in general, it is best for us not to get bogged down and distracted by that. I know I'm not saying it's not, always good to think and reflect, but don't let it take too much of your time, because then it makes us, the end result of conspiracy theories in general is that it makes us feel helpless. It makes us feel like we're nobody. There are some people somewhere we don't know who control everything. That is not true. It never happened. The only one who controls everything is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the rest are tools that Allah gave us. They can plan. وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Allah tells us they plan. And there's not a conspiracy. The fact that they're planning to destroy each other and destroy the poor and destroy some Muslim countries and destroy the freedom in the world is not a conspiracy. It's true. They're doing it in our face. The question is not what they're doing, it's what we are doing or what we're supposed to be doing or what we're not doing. And that's where I think 99% of our time should be reflected on what can we do to change that. Us. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. I hope that answers your legitimate question. Maybe not fully, but inshallah.
Jazakumullah again for all the great observations. It is true that under such societies, reporting is also inaccurate. When you look at the world map currently, you look at the numbers that are coming from certain countries. I think by far, maybe Europe and the United States have some sort of a metric and true analysis that will produce meaningful information. most of the countries, the quality of the reporting is gauged and you know, it has to be sanctioned by the government, obviously, and has to get some sort of seal of approval. So it's all censored. We don't know for sure if it's truly, you know, what reflects what's going on or not, obviously, for a political standpoint. We'll go ahead and turn it around now for Samira Hijaz. She had a question, inshallah, and then there's a text question that we can address from Jum'a Hindi.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Brother Houssam, and everybody for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Samira.
Thank you. I have a question. You were talking about small businesses or something. I just heard you right now. How about people? Do you know anything about people that have a home that they're renting and the tenants can't pay the rent right now? And, you know, the home still needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that? Because I haven't a question.
Yeah, I'll go. And I would say maybe we can talk offline. But in general, there's relief for everybody. There's relief for everybody because otherwise the economy will crash. If you owe anything now, if you owe anything and you have a reason that your income has been restricted, there is relief in everything, including your utilities, your internet, your electricity. No water will be caught, no electricity if you can't pay. All you have to do is communicate that. If you're renting a house from, you're paying mortgage or you're renting a house, you call the landlord, you call the lending company, and you say, I lost my job or I'm about to lose my job. They will. I've read all over the country. They defer. You know, they do a deferment, meaning your rent. They can push it for 3 months from now, or they ask you to pay whatever you pay now, and then after 3 months pay the rest. So there are ways. For the owners, it's a little bit different, but the owner has to pay a mortgage in that sense. You call the lending company and you explain to them, and also they will put, because at this point, if any group, any level does not play the game now, the economy will crash. Meaning, if the lenders say, if you don't pay, we're going to take over your homes, you're talking about tens of millions of homes, you know, foreclosed. And that means tens of millions of people on the street. This will be like there will be a chaos in America. So even the government will pay to prevent a chaos. So I would say, you know, we can talk after that if you want. I can connect you with our attorneys at the office. That's not our specialty, but they will direct you there. But I would say even Google nowadays, I know I'm not usually the one who encourages people to search legal issues, but there are so many, I would say, authentic, certified people about these things. So just do a quick Google and you'll get some. If you find something that seems to be legitimate, verify it, and you'll be satisfied. There are enough to help out there.
Thank you so much. And if you can email me the business you talked about whenever you have a chance.
You mean the business loan or the what?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Inshallah. If
You have my
you don't
email.
mind,
Thank you.
I might have it, but if you don't mind, message it to me. Of course, I know your family very well, and Allah bless you and your family.
Thank
But
you.
if you can
Thank
send
you.
me
I
the
hope
email.
you're good and your family, inshallah, and everybody. Jazakallah khair, brother. Nice to see you tonight. Thank you, Brother Sama.
Jazakumullah khair. Okay, the last comment for tonight, because I know we went over, but it was all worth it. Thank you so much for, you know, sticking around. There was a question from Jum'a Hindi about the funeral protocols in the case someone were to pass away from the corona disease, God forbids, and then someone answered them already that they need to contact the MMCC board members. I would say actually the first line of defense should be if the protocol about, you know, someone passing and then of the disease, I think the masjid is not the first line of defense. It's probably the authorities and the local authorities to understand what that procedure should be. But in any case, the answer is again the MMCC board members, Hamid Haq and Hummus House or Shakil Said for burial protocol on a COVID-19 related death. So here's the answer. And with that, we'll come to a wrap, inshallah. Any closing comments by Houssam or by Sheikh Hamdi before we just call it a night and ask everyone to be safe?
I would love to hear maybe
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry to interrupt you because I cannot, you know, see how to communicate here. And I don't know, Brother Usama, how you got Brother Juma message. Is he message you privately? Because we cannot write down here anything. I know you mentioned at the beginning the system has been like acting weird. So I hope by tomorrow the system will be good for everyone to be, fair to see and able to write if they have any questions. Thank you, Brother Ayloush. I hope this calamity, inshallah, will be end soon. But inshallah, it will be end soon when we have a good heart, good intention, and we care about each other. No racism. لا فرق عربي على أعجمي إلا بالتقوى. متى ما وصلنا إلى هذا المبدأ من الآية إن شاء الله كل شيء بيكون تمام. السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. جزاكم الله خير.
نطبق حديث الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. نعم. طبعا أنا not much to add والله يعني I would love to conclude this gathering to hear some دعاء يعني from شيخ حمدي وشيخ عثمان يعني إن شاء الله to conclude it. عسى وعل إن شاء الله تكون يعني ساعة مستجابة إن شاء الله.
Inshallah, yes, we can do that, and then we can also top it off with the adhan for Isha, which is of course a while back, but that has been kind of like the norm for our sessions. Sheikh Uthman or Sheikh Hamdi, if you would like to give a closing dua, inshallah.
جزاك الله خير يا أخو حسام. May Allah تبارك وتعالى reward you for this time inshallah. In your scale. May Allah تبارك وتعالى reward you, Brother Houssam, and may Allah تبارك وتعالى keep it in your scale in the day of judgment inshallah. Because at that time we need everyone يعني to help each other, and inshallah just I want to tell everyone inshallah this meeting inshallah will be recorded and will be on the website of the masjid. If someone he missed the meeting, he can also watch it later inshallah. But inshallah do your best, Brother Houssam, inshallah to keep everyone inshallah able to share with us inshallah bismillah. Inshallah we'll do dua. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala accept from all of us ya Rab. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من البرص والجنون والجذام ونعوذ بك من سيء الأسقام. اللهم عافنا في أبداننا وفي أسماعنا وفي أبصارنا وفي أولادنا وفي أعراضنا وفي أموالنا وفي ديننا ودنيانا وآخرتنا. اللهم اجعل جمعنا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان واكتب لنا فيه عملا صالحا متقبلا وأعنا فيه على الصيام والقيام يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا ولا تؤاخذنا بسوء فعالنا ولا بما فعل السفهاء منا ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين واكشف الضر عن أهل الضر أجمعين وفرج كرب إخواننا المسجونين. اللهم أحسن خلاص إخواننا المعتقلين. اللهم ارفع الظلم عن المظلومين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم ردنا ورد الناس إليك ردا جميلا. اللهم ول أمورنا خيارنا ولا تول أمورنا شرارنا. اللهم إنا نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم والفوز بالجنة والنجاة من النار. اللهم أحسن ختامنا ويسر حسابنا ويمن كتابنا وبيض يوم القيامة وجوهنا وتقبل منا أعمالنا. اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص في القول والعمل والسر والعلن. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة. نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ونعوذ بك من دعوة لا يستجاب لها. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. إن شاء الله بإذن الله تمور.
جزاكم الله خير. آمين.
الله يحفظك. Tomorrow إن شاء الله بإذن الله fasting day إن شاء الله. I hope everyone, as we mentioned before, inshallah, minimum Monday and Thursday. Inshallah, we'll have adhkar at 7 also, inshallah. Tomorrow, sisters' class, inshallah, will be at 11:30. 11:30. The lecture for our sisters in Arabic, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, 11:30. and the youth Saturday 11:30 also inshallah بإذن الله. جزاكم الله خير.
And tomorrow, inshallah, at 8:45, there will be the Q&A halaqa with Sheikh Hamdi, and it will be hosted by Brother Asad, just like last time, inshallah. If you don't mind, Abu Rabi'a, if you would like to call the adhan for Isha, we'll greatly appreciate that. Abu Rabi'a. I'm not sure if he's with us or not. His mic is open. Abu Rabi'a.
I think he's not here. Yeah.
Yeah, he is here, but I don't know if he's listening or not. But Muhammad Zohdi also left. I'm not sure who else you would like to nominate for the
Inshallah, maybe.
Houssam, you know how to call the Isha then for us?
عفوا الشيخ حمدي لو سمحت لي طلب لو سمحت شيخ حمدي.
تفضل.
ممكن نسمع الأذان منك لو سمحت.
مننا؟
نعم منك.
الله أكبر.
بارك الله فيك.
في معنا الشيخ عثمان.
والله نحن بدنا الشيخ حمدي لو سمحتوا بعد إذنكم يعني. السلام عليكم.
التنويع جيد.
يلا خير إن شاء الله.
نسمعكم السبيل.
مين؟ الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
قرابة لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة العالية الرفيعة وابعثه اللهم المقام المحمود الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. جزاكم الله خير. تقبل الله منا ومنكم.
إن شاء الله. Thank you everyone. Thank you Houssam again for your time and for your effort. جزاكم الله خيرا. Please be
6
safe.
o'clock إن شاء الله. أذان tomorrow, أذان الفجر tomorrow 5:20 إن شاء الله to stop إن شاء الله سحور 5:20 إن شاء الله بإذن الله. Let me check to be sure. 5:19 tomorrow إن شاء الله. So stop eating before that. حلقة الفجر قرآن at 6 o'clock. جزاكم الله كل خير. السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thanks again Houssam and please be safe.
السلام ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.